Beef mince and beef burgers go into more British trolleys every week than almost any other fresh product. And most of the people putting them there are reading the wrong side of the pack. The front of a beef pack is a marketing document. The back of it is a legal one, and UK food law is very specific about which of the two has to tell you the truth. Here's how far apart they can get. There's a pack of burgers in Tesco right now that says, made with 100% Aberdeen Angus beef on the front. Turn it over. The ingredients list says beef, 91%, then water, rice flour, dry potato, sea salt, yeast extract, a preservative, rapeseed oil, and an emulsifier. 8 UK beef products where the meat is not the whole story, counting from 8 down to the worst on the shelf. Then 4 that genuinely hold up. Stay to number 1 of the good list because I'll show you the arithmetic that proves the cheapest pack in your basket is almost never the cheapest meal. We start at number 8, Tesco Finest Aberdeen Angus Beef Burgers. Aberdeen Angus is a real thing, a Scottish cattle breed prized for marbling, commanding a genuine premium at market. So when the box says 100% Aberdeen Angus beef, your brain does something automatic. It reads 100% and attaches it to beef. It isn't attached to beef, it's attached to Aberdeen Angus. The claim is about the breed, that the cattle were 100% Aberdeen Angus rather than a crossbreed. It's a statement about genetics. It says nothing about what proportion of the burger is meat. And honestly, that's the bit that stings. The sentence sounds so reassuring right up until you realise it was never answering the question you actually asked. And here's the part most shoppers never realise. The only reason you can find that out is because the law forced them to print it. Under UK food information rules, if a company emphasises an ingredient on the front of a pack, they must declare that ingredient's percentage. It's called a quantitative ingredient declaration. Tesco put beef on the front in big letters, so the law made them write beef 91% on the back in small ones. Nothing here is illegal. That's the problem. The most misleading thing on this box is a number that's completely verifiably true, and at least that one gave you a percentage to check. The next product removes the number entirely and replaces it with a word that has no legal meaning at all. At number 7, Summer Grill by Asday, the big smash burgers. A smash burger is a technique. Loose, uncompressed mince dropped on a screaming hot flat top and pressed once, so the surface tears into the metal and the Maillard reaction runs across the whole face of the patty. The method depends entirely on the meat not being pre-formed. A pre-shaped, pre-compressed patty in a plastic tray is structurally the opposite. You can't smash something that was already smashed into a puck at the factory. But smash burger has no legal definition in the UK. Zero. It's a restaurant word borrowed for a chilled cabinet, and no regulator is checking whether the product behaves like one, which frankly should annoy you more than it probably does. What is defined is the word next to it. Under the meat products regulations, anything sold as a burger in England must contain a minimum of 62% meat. Sold as an economy burger, that floor drops to 47. Sit with that second figure. There is a legal category of burger in this country where 53% of the product doesn't have to be meat, and it's still allowed to say burger on the label. A burger at least has a legal floor underneath it. Move one aisle across to meatballs, and that floor disappears, along with the honest meaning of the number on the front. Number 6 on the list. Sainsbury's 5% fat beef, meatballs, 5% fat. It reads like a health metric, and it's doing something much cleverer than that. That figure describes the finished meatball, not the beef, which is a sleight of hand when you think about it. Those are two completely different measurements, and the gap between them is where the product is made. Here's the mechanism. If you start with beef that's 15% fat and you want the finished product to read 5%, you have two options. You can source much leaner beef, which is expensive, or you can add mass that contains no fat at all. Water, rusk, breadcrumb, vegetable filler, and let simple division do the work. Add enough non-fat weight and the fat percentage of the total product falls, even though the beef inside it never changed. And notice what the pack carefully doesn't say. Under UK nutrition claim rules, you can only print the words low fat on a solid food if it contains 3 grams of fat per 100 grams or less. 5% is above that threshold, so they can't say low fat, but they can print the raw figure 5% fat as a plain statement, in large type, in a health-coded color, and it lands on the shopper as if it were the regulated claim. It's a number chosen to sit just outside the rule while wearing the rule's clothing. There's something almost impressive about how deliberate that is. Quick recap. 3 products in, and we've already seen 3 completely different tricks that all achieve the same thing, making you think you're buying more beef than you actually are. A percentage attached to the wrong noun, a word with no legal definition at all, and a number measured against the finished product instead of against the meat. Same outcome. 3 different routes in, and the next one doesn't use a number at all. It sells you a sensation instead. Number 5. Asda full-flavored beef. Meatballs. Full-flavored is not a claim. It cannot be verified, it cannot be breached, and no enforcement officer in Britain will ever measure it. It exists because it's unfalsifiable, but it points at something real. Flavor in beef is carried almost entirely by fat and by the compounds that form when muscle protein browns. Strip the fat out to hit a lean figure, dilute the meat with filler, and you've removed most of the flavor chemistry from the product. Yeast extract is the one to watch. It delivers savory depth through naturally occurring glutamates, the same taste mechanism as monosodium glutamate. But because it's grown from yeast rather than synthesized, it's classified as an ingredient, not an additive. No E number, no flavor enhancer wording. It sits in the list looking like food. That's not a safety issue, and I won't pretend it is. It's a transparency issue. A pack that has to advertise that it has flavor is telling you that flavor was a problem someone had to solve. And the ingredients list is where you find out how they solved it. Not exactly comforting, is it? If this is helping you make better decisions in the aisle, subscribe and stay tuned. The next 4 get significantly worse. Number 4. Tesco lightly seasoned beef mince. This is the most important entry on the list because it isn't about seasoning at all. It's about a legal reclassification that happens the instant the seasoning goes in. Under retained UK food hygiene law, minced meat is a defined product with compositional criteria and mandatory labelling. Fat content must be declared, and so must the collagen to meat protein ratio, because together those 2 figures tell you how much of what you're buying is connective tissue rather than muscle. But the moment you add anything, salt, seasoning, water, an additive, it stops being minced meat in law. It becomes a meat preparation. Different category, different rules, and meat preparations are permitted to contain what plain minced beef cannot. Added water, additives, preservatives, binders. So, lightly seasoned beef mince isn't seasoned mince. It's a meat preparation that gets to keep the word mince on the front, and a pinch of pepper is what unlocked the entire permission set. A pinch of pepper. Think about that for a second. Skip the seasoned version entirely and find the collagen ratio on the plain one. It's printed there because the law says it has to be, and only on the version nobody tampered with. That was a single word costing you transparency. Number 3, Morrison's British Beef Quarter Pounders, 5% fat, 4-pack. Give Morrison's proper credit on one point first. British beef is a real, regulated origin claim. For beef in the UK, that wording requires the animal to have been born, reared and slaughtered here. That claim is audited and it's worth paying for. The problem is the other 2 words on the pack. Quarter pounder. A quarter pounder is a weight, 4 ounces, 113 grams, and it is measured raw. Every gram of it counts toward that figure, including every gram of added water. So the quarter pound you paid for isn't the quarter pound that reaches the plate. And the leaner the product claims to be, the more likely water was added to replace the fat that would have kept it moist. The 5% figure and the shrinkage are the same phenomenon described from 2 directions. You buy by raw weight and you eat by cooked weight, and the difference between those 2 numbers is printed nowhere on the box. You paid for a promise and the label never had to keep it. Here's where it gets more surprising, because the last 2 products don't hide anything in the wording. Every word on them is plain English. What they've worked out is that you can mislead someone perfectly well using nothing but layout, where a thing sits on the pack and what sits next to it. Number 2 starts by burying its worst feature behind a wall of brackets. Aldi Ashfields 5% fat skinny beef quarter pounders. Here's the full list, and I want you to read it as a structure rather than as words. British beef 75% water, onion, gluten-free crumb, rice flour, gram flour, salt, maize starch, dextrose, seasoning, dehydrated potato, rice flour, sea salt, black pepper, preservative sodium metabisulfite, salt, dextrose. Beef stock, beef extract, water, salt. Salt appears 3 separate times. Dextrose twice, rice flour twice, water twice. That's not sloppiness. It's the compound ingredient rule working exactly as designed. Ingredients are listed in descending order of weight, but that ordering applies to the parent ingredient. Sub-ingredients live inside their parent's brackets and are never pooled across the list. Split your salt across a crumb, a seasoning, and a stock, and no single salt entry ever climbs high enough to be noticeable. Now, the preservative. Sodium metabisulfite is E223, a sulfite. It's used in burger meat to hold the red colour and slow spoilage, and it's one of the 14 allergens that must be declared in the UK. 75% beef. The lowest figure on this entire list, in the product with the word skinny on the front. There's a real irony in that, and I don't think it's an accident. Every product so far at least printed an ingredients list you could sit down and read. The worst one on this shelf puts the misdirection in the product name itself, where the rules about honesty don't apply. And finally, on the avoid list, number 1, Prince's minced beef and onion. 2 ingredients in order, right there on the tin. Beef first, onion second. That's what a product name communicates, and that is precisely why it's the least reliable line on any pack. It sounds like the most trustworthy word on the whole tin, and that's exactly the trick, because product names are not required to reflect weight order, only the ingredients list is. A name is a description. It can list what's in there in whatever order the manufacturer likes, and in ambient canned meat, the ingredients sitting at the top of the actual list is very often the gravy system, not the meat. First, retort processing. To be shelf-stable for years without refrigeration, the sealed tin is heated well past 120 degrees for an extended hold. That's why canned meat needs no preservatives. The sterilization does the job. But it also means the beef has been cooked hard twice, and the texture that survives that is held together by the sauce around it. Modified starch and thickeners aren't in there for flavor. They're in there because the meat structure has been broken down. Second, beef is in the product name, which means a percentage has to be declared somewhere on that tin. Flip it around and find that number, because it tells you more than every other word on the label put together. And it's the one thing the packaging is built to keep your eyes away from. The tin that names its ingredients in the title is the one where the title is doing the most work. It's almost theatrical once you notice it. Everything we've covered so far explains what to avoid. Now let's flip it around. Before we continue, I've spent years standing in supermarket aisles so you don't have to. The supermarket method is everything I've learned from hundreds of supermarket products, distilled into one simple guide you can use on every shopping trip. Scan the QR code on your screen, grab your copy, and let's get back to the rankings. 4 products that genuinely hold up, and this is where it becomes useful. Now onto the good list. At number 4, Dutchy Organic British Beef, 4 burgers. British beef 95%, potato flakes, sea salt, black pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, antioxidant, ascorbic acid, rosemary extract. Now look at what's missing. There is no water on that list. That single absence changes the entire product. No added water means nothing evaporates out that you paid for. The patty holds together on its own protein, rather than on a binder, and there was no dilution step to drag the fat percentage artificially downward. Then the last 2 ingredients, because they're the structural point. Ascorbic acid and rosemary extract are an antioxidant system doing the job sodium metabisulfite was doing in the Aldi patty, holding colour, slowing oxidation without a sulfite. And that isn't a brand promise. Organic certification prohibits sulfite preservatives in meat products. Dutchy didn't choose not to use them. The certification they operate under doesn't permit it. The rule does the work, not the marketing department. That's genuinely reassuring, and it's rarer than it should be. Fair objection at this point. A burger is always a processed product, so of course it needs scrutiny. So let's move to plain mince, where there's nowhere to hide. Number 3, Tesco organic beef steak. Mince, 15% fat. After everything you've just heard about 5% products, that number probably reads like a step backwards. It's the opposite, and this is the single most useful inversion in the whole video. Fat is what made the low-fat products need water in the first place. Take the fat out and you remove the thing that carried moisture, flavor, and binding. So it has to be replaced with something, and that something is filler. A mince at 15% fat needs none of that. The fat does the job it was always doing. One honest note on the wording. Steak mince is a retail convention, not a legal definition. It signals mince from whole muscle cuts rather than trimmings, but no regulation guarantees it. And the certification behind it is structural, not decorative. Ruminants must get at least 60% of their diet as forage measured in dry matter. No routine antibiotics, no synthetic growth promoters. Audited requirements with a paper trail, not a claim on a sleeve. That's the kind of boring you actually want on a food label. And if your remaining doubt is that organic is just another word printed on a label, number 2 hands you something you can verify yourself. Sainsbury's So Organic. British beef mince, 12% fat. The ingredients list on this pack is one word long. Beef. That isn't a marketing achievement. It's a legal category. With nothing added, this product remains minced meat under UK law, rather than a meat preparation. It therefore cannot legally contain added water, cannot contain additives, cannot contain binders, and must carry both the fat declaration and the collagen to meat protein ratio. Everything the seasoned mince at number 4 was permitted to include, this product is prohibited from including. And the entire difference between them is a pinch of seasoning. Then there's the part you can verify yourself standing in the shop in about 10 seconds. Every certified organic product in Britain carries a control body code on the pack. The format is GB, then ORG, then a number identifying the certifier. Priced in the same organic bracket as everything else in this half of the video. Simple, verifiable, no faith required, which leaves exactly one objection still standing. Price. Number 1 is where that argument falls apart. Dutchy Organic British Beef Mince, 12% fat. Dutchy Organic clears all 3 tests at once. One ingredient, full organic certification with a traceable control body, and a published standard tied to a named organisation that can be held to it publicly rather than an anonymous own-label supply chain. Surplus from the brand goes to a charitable foundation, which means the standard is the reason the product exists, not a cost centre eating the margin. It's the most expensive product in this video. That's the number people flinch at. So here's the arithmetic I promised you at the start, and run it with whatever the real shelf prices are on the day, because the point is the method, not my figures. Take a budget pack at 75% beef, say it's £6 a kilo. You are not paying £6 a kilo for beef. You're paying £6 for 750 grams of beef plus 250 grams of water, crumb and onion. Divide it out. That's £8 a kilo of actual meat. Now the organic mince. Say it's £11 a kilo at 100% beef, that's £11 a kilo of actual meat. Do that division once in the aisle on your phone, shelf price divided by the beef percentage, times 100. 4 seconds, and it re-ranks the entire chiller cabinet, because the products with the biggest gap between shelf price and true meat price are, without exception, the ones printing the boldest claims on the front. 4 checks. That's all of this. 1. If a percentage appears on the front, work out what noun it's actually attached to. 100% Aberdeen Angus is a sentence about a cow, not about your dinner. 2. Find the hidden number. Any ingredient a company names or shouts about on the front has to come with a percentage somewhere on that pack. It's on there whether they like it or not, and it's never printed in the size the marketing claim gets. 3. Read the brackets. Salt in 3 compound ingredients is still salt, and the descending weight rule was never built to catch it. 4. Treat a low-fat percentage as a question rather than an answer. Ask what replaced the fat, then go looking for it. Every product that passed this video shares one thing. What's in it is defined by a rule somebody outside the company enforces, not by a word somebody inside the company chose. That's a low bar. Most of the shelf hasn't cleared it. Ignore the front. do the division. And if this changed how you'll shop this week, send it to whoever does the food shop in your house. Because the front of the pack was written for them, and the back of it was written for nobody at all.